House resumes. And debate continues.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise to make my contribution to the 2018-2019 budgetary estimate to the tune of some $978,101,625. Madam Speaker, it is fair to say, to God be the glory, great things He has done. Because God has been good to us as a country, as individuals, and as a government. Madam Speaker, following the 2017-2018 budgetary presentation by the Honorable Prime Minister, Dr. Roosevelt Skerrit, we as a country, the citizens of this Commonwealth of Dominica, we were definitely on a high, Madam Speaker. We were satisfied that the program and activities outlined would have transformed the economy, the economic landscape of this country. But Maria certainly had other ideas. As we were preparing to undertake the many interventions to assist our people, Maria came in September, mid-September, and shattered all our plans. Madam Speaker, when we speak of Dominica's present economic situation, we must never forget the two major destructive setbacks to our overall economy. Erica, Tropical Storm Erica, which wiped out 90% of GDP, and Maria, which wiped out 226% of our GDP, Madam Speaker. We're talking about well over 300% of GDP having been decimated within a 3-year period, Madam Speaker. As it turned out, for both of these disasters, we had the right leader at the right time in Honorable Roosevelt Skerrit, Madam Speaker. We had a solid team in the cabinet, and this team, with the Honorable Prime Minister, we've been able to navigate our way through these difficult times, Madam Speaker. As I always say, Madam Speaker, whenever we're faced with natural disasters, be it tropical storms, trough systems, hurricanes, you name it, we have always been set back in the Castlebrooks constituency, Madam Speaker. We are always threatened by these disasters. We've lost lives, we've lost properties, we've lost land, we've had to deal with landslides. But, Madam Speaker, I must thank my constituents because they are always ready to work together to pull through. Madam Speaker, when members of the opposition who are not here now comes into this honorable house with all of this hullabaloo, noise making about, yes, comparing Dominica with regional islands like St. Kitts and so on, Madam Speaker. These islands, they have not taken the battering we have taken here in Dominica, you know. They have generally been spared the harsh realities of this natural disaster over the years. So therefore, to come here and to compare Dominica with St. Kitts, it's really being dishonest. And it clearly demonstrates that the opposition is not in touch with reality. But, Madam Speaker, we are in a rebuilding mode, Madam Speaker, here. We are reconstructing our country. It means, therefore, Madam Speaker, that we have lost the gains we have made through natural disaster, and we are rebuilding. And as the PM said in his, the Prime Minister said in his contribution, we have survived, and we are still standing, Madam Speaker. So we are rebuilding our agriculture. We are rebuilding our homes. We are rebuilding our tourism. We are rebuilding our infrastructure. We are rebuilding our schools. We are in this heavy rebuilding, good Madam Speaker. I was taken back a bit this morning or yesterday when the member for Rosenhoff, Valera for Rosenhoff, Mr. Honorable Daniel Ogie, it seems like he has made himself the custodian of success in agriculture. Whenever he comes in here, he speaks like he has been this success story in agriculture, Madam Speaker. But I was agriculture minister for some years. And I know the contribution we made to one of the institutions that we hand to Mr. Daniel Ogie and his team, DAPEX. We made $400,000 available to DAPEX for the purchase of agricultural produce. And we do not know up to this day what was done with those funds to assist the very same farmers he is accusing the government of not supporting. But the mistake we made as a government is that we put the money in his hands. The money would have been better invested directly in the hands of the farmers, Madam Speaker. So we did make a mistake. And we admit that. After that,
I need you to either withdraw or make the correction. You can't say it's his hands.
I will withdraw that, Madam Speaker.
You can say his group's hands. That is
In
not
the groups
his hands.
that he was working with, Madam Speaker.
Not his hands.
Not only that, Madam Speaker. Following the collapse of DAPEX, he himself, with a few other persons, started a shipping organization to export agricultural produce. You remember that, Mr. Ostry? And Minister Ostry. And he disappeared, member for Cottage, Deputy Prime Minister. And this program, Madam Speaker, also failed under his watch. And Madam Speaker, following Tropical America, we rebounded remarkably in agriculture. We were able to establish a number of markets and we were sustaining them. We were shipping dashing to the US fortnightly while maintaining the dashing markets in England and still providing dashing for all our regional markets. Banana was back, albeit Black Seeker took its toll on it and so on. But we had invested heavily, over 60,000 banana plantlets in the banana subsector, and established a unit, established a Black Seeker unit, and established a unit managing the banana subsector, and it was working out well, Madam Speaker. But Maria came, and Maria destroyed it. When Maria came, there were thousands of dashing getting ready to be shipped, Madam Speaker. Farmers were making money, Madam Speaker, hardworking farmers. So to come to the Honorable House and blame the government for the stressors in agriculture is really and truly being dishonest. Because we know we've been trying, we've been investing, we've been helping our farmers, and we know the farmers has been responding, Madam Speaker, because we were able to sustain all our markets, Madam Speaker. And now, having been affected by Maria, we are seeing our farmers back again. Our local market is blooming. The vegetables are there. The provisions are there. The yams are coming back. The bananas are coming back, Madam Speaker. The plantains are coming back. And the vegetables are here. And we have started to ship from about 2 months after Maria. We're already sending vegetables out, Madam Speaker. So therefore, we know the opposition, they want to talk, so we are allowing them to say what they have to say. But the Dominican community knows better. They know who cares for them. They know the people who are there to their day-to-day in and out, who are with them through their struggles. And they know it's the Dominica Labour Party government led by Roosevelt's Carrot who have their welfare at heart. And not these guys who are doing absolutely nothing, Madam Speaker. And then we stand by that. Madam Speaker, in this rebuilding efforts, we have placed special attention on housing development, because housing development is very, very important coming out of Maria, having lost almost 20,000 homes, Madam Speaker. I must thank the Honorable Prime Minister for giving me the opportunity to serve as Minister in the Ministry of Housing and Land. It has given me the opportunity to serve at the core of the rebuilding effort, Madam Speaker. Touching lives, working with people, listening to their pains, and responding to them, Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker, I dare say, over the past couple months, I have really given building materials, signed documents for people to get building material to reconstruct their roofs. Thanks to the $18 million material that we purchased through this company in Jamaica, Madam Speaker. Well, Madam Speaker, Maria damaged over 20,000 homes. And we are presently targeting, Madam Speaker, to construct over 5,000 homes to meet the adequate needs of our housing stock and to meet the needs of our families in this country, Madam Speaker. And we are fully committed to this task, Madam Speaker. We have already entered into a contract to build 1,000 homes, which will meet the recommendation of the new building code, the new building standard of Madam Speaker. And of course, as you know, we've handed over 10 of these houses in Port Michel, and we will soon hand over 10 in the Kalinago territory, and a number of communities across the island, Madam Speaker, will benefit from this 1,000 homes, Madam Speaker. In the Kalinago territory alone, 200 of these 1,000 homes will be built over the coming year, Madam Speaker. And every other community across the island. And we're not only talking about communities that voted for government, you know, Madam Speaker. We're talking about every community on the island. Because every community on this island, we were touched in one way or another. We were affected in one way or another by Maria. And we will help every Dominican who needs assistance over time, Madam Speaker. And so we are happy that this program is unfolding, and we are seeing the success of it. We went to the opening of the first 10 buildings in Port Michel, and we entered into the houses an afternoon, and the houses were relatively cool because they are built to the standard where all of this contracting heat will not be able to enter into the houses. And so the families will be receiving the houses, especially on the West Coast where the sun sets and it's always hot. They will be in much cooler temperature in these houses and so on. And Madam Speaker, this is a very, very, very important aspect of our housing reconstruction effort. Madam Speaker, we will also be seeing the construction on the island of a plant to construct some of the components of these houses, a factory, where some of the components of this factory will be constructed, Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker, the government will continue to be very, very disciplined in its efforts and in that process, Madam Speaker. We will follow the international standard. We are building better. We are building resilience. We are rebuilding our country. We are building a resilient economy, a resilient country, and therefore the housing stock that the government will build will meet the standard, Madam Speaker, that will be able to stand Category 5 hurricanes, Madam Speaker. And this will be done across the island, Madam Speaker. We are taking into consideration very seriously the vulnerability of the communities in which we are building these climate-resilient houses for this community. And that is why, Madam Speaker, we are very, very meticulous in the selection of areas where these houses will be built, Madam Speaker. I listened to the Senator, the Honorable Senator Isaac Baptist this morning, and he is talking about we should not be building apartments in rural communities, Madam Speaker. The Senator, who happens to have contested the election with me in the Casabus, against me in the Casabus constituency, is saying to me, the part rep for Casabus, a heavily disaster-prone area, where the topography is such, whenever it rains, we have major landslides. As we speak now, there are several areas in Pidisufwe and Good Hope where there are major cracks, where we have had to build a first set of houses for people to get them out of their areas. And he's saying to the Honorable House here that we should not build apartments in this area. We should go back and build houses for the people in this very same area where they were living before. Madam Speaker, we have to find houses for well over 100 persons in between Good Hope, Sansovia, and Pidisufwe. There are no land in Good Hope right now. Just a few persons, you can rebuild a house for them in their own yard where they are living. And how we call it? In-field development for Good Hope, in-field development for Pidisufwe, infill development for Sansove, infill development for Granfou, infill development for Boetica and Mondron. Madam Speaker, the government is on the right track. What the government is doing is identifying suitable land, and the government is working with landowners, homeowners who are willing to sell their lands for the government so we can construct suitable homes for these people. And so, Madam Speaker, these buildings are being constructed in safe locations, mindful to ensure that we maintain our agricultural land. And what do I mean by that, Madam Speaker? Agriculture will continue to be one of the key pillars of growth in this country. And we have to be mindful, a lot of persons with private lands, they've sold their lands for persons for housing development in agricultural communities. Government must protect the remaining agricultural land that we have on this island. And therefore, we cannot go about taking all the land we have for agriculture and turn them into housing settlement, Madam Speaker. We have to protect that. And therefore, the Prime Minister and this cabinet, Madam Speaker, in our wisdom, we have taken the decision that the agricultural land of this country should remain for food security, first of all, and then for export of agricultural produce, Madam Speaker. Because we do not want to reach a stage where we'll have to import food. And if we allow all our lands to go into housing development, we'll reach a stage where we have to be importing the very provisions that we're accustomed with, Madam Speaker. And even in Roseau, Madam Speaker, Roseau people like the provisions, you know that? Roseau people goes to the market every Saturday to buy their dashing and their fig and their plantain and their vegetables. Not only country people that like their dashing, you know. So therefore, we have to ensure that we have enough land on the Alliance planting like dashing too, and so on. So we have to ensure. And Tanya, look, she said she likes Tanya too. Good for you. So we have to ensure that we have enough agricultural land across the island, Madam Speaker. So therefore, there's areas where we've traditionally have all of this dashing coming out of it and this planting and the yams, that what is left, we are going to protect it as a government, Madam Speaker. And this is a government policy, Madam Speaker. So I want to thank all of the landowners in housing areas who have agreed to sell their land to the state so that we can provide adequate housing for citizens. And later on, I will go into what is happening in my own constituency for providing land for the citizens of the Castlebush community. But let me, on behalf of the government and the people of Dominica, thank the landowners who've been cooperating with government in the rebuilding process and have been allowing us to use the lands to reconstruct houses for people. Madam Speaker, recognizing the limitations of land, safe and secure locations are being purchased for construction of these houses across the island. And the opposition continue to criticize, but we have a job to do. We've been elected for now 18 years to perform a duty. The opposition has been comfortable in the opposition seat, doing absolutely nothing. And they are saying that, how do they say it, that their time is coming or something like that. I believe they're going to be staying where they are quite comfortable and we won't disturb them. We'll continue to build this country. So they have sought to criticize the construction of these apartments. This apartment will be uplifting this community. And I can tell you, Madam Speaker, we are about to build 66 units in Sansove, where we've just completed 10 houses for families. And I can tell you, when you leave Good Hope and you take this corner, going to Sansove, the 10 houses that were there were already a beautiful sight. Imagine when these 2 beautiful apartments will be constructed in that flat area in Sansove, adding to the 10 housing units that are already there. It's going to be a beautiful little community. And we'll be really taking the living standard of these people to another level, Madam Speaker, to another height, Madam Speaker, because these buildings will be built with international standard. And let me tell you something, my people. It will not be because you came from a poor home in one of the back streets that you will be getting a small apartment. It will be based on your size of your family. So therefore, if your family has a lot of children, you will get a 3-bedroom apartment. Comfortable apartment. This is what we are doing for our people. We are taking our people to another height. We're moving from one level and we take you to another level. And this is what this Labour Party government is all about. And we won't be stopping that, Madam Speaker. So I'm looking forward to the construction of these apartments in my area. And Madam Speaker, let me take the opportunity now to run through some of the initiatives for housing that will be done across the island, Madam Speaker. We have here listed first of all, the Bellevue Chopin project, of which we will see some 340 units, and 91 of these units will be ready by the end of August. Then we have Castle Bruce, 66 residences, work ongoing. Lapland, 66 residences, work ongoing. Grand Fond, 66 residences, work ongoing. Saint-Sauveur, 66 residences, work ongoing. In the north, we have Georgetown, that's in Portsmouth, 68 units. Work is ongoing. In Cotton Hill, an additional 68 units. Work has already commenced. Work will commence in August. In Roseau Central, there will be 145 units constructed, Madam Speaker. Work will commence in September. This is to assist the Roseau people, the people in Roseau who are affected by Maria. Maria flooded some of the little homes that they had. Heavy water went through their houses and so on. Your government, your Labour Party government, is preparing to construct for you, the people of Roseau, 145 units, Madam Speaker. If this is not a government that is working, and I'm even tempted to say Labour Katavai, but this is not right to say in the Parliament, so therefore I will not be saying it, Madam Speaker. I take it back right away. I'm taking it back right away, Madam Speaker.
You can say it.
Okay?
You can say it.
In English?
Yeah, you can say
Labour
it.
is working.
Yeah, Labour is working.
So, Madam Speaker, and it continues, Madam. I have taken it back, Madam Speaker, even before you ask. Labour Katavai. It means Labour is working.
You mumbled, so I didn't hear Labour Party.
I didn't say Labour Party, no?
What you said?
Labour Katavai.
Oh, and that is what you took back?
Well, I thought sometimes you have to be careful what you say in the house, so anyway.
No. That's neither an unparliamentary word or anything.
Oh, thank you very much, Madam Speaker. So it is fitting to say Labour Katavai, my dear people.
But you must translate.
I must translate. The Labour Party is working. Labour is working, Madam Speaker.
Right.
Okay.
And that's it.
So we continue, Madam Speaker. The petrocasters, as you know, and then we must always be thankful to the government and people of Venezuela. They have been a friend of this government, Madam Speaker. They have been our friends through the years, through thick and thin, Madam Speaker. And we see that the petrocasters in Grand Bay, 8 of the petrocasters are under construction. In Jubic Center, an additional 8 under construction. Pratmapier, 10 is being rebuilt. Stock Farm, 10 being rebuilt. Castle Rose, 10 has already been repaired and the families are comfortable in their building. Saint-Sauveur, 7 under construction, 2 of them are under repairs. Lily Valley, 1 new building, 9 under repairs, and the list goes on, Madam Speaker. All of this, Madam Speaker, contracts have been signed, work has started, and government is investing in its people. And as I will tell you in a while, this is not part of the $108 million that loan that we took from the World Bank, Madam Speaker. This is all coming from our CBI funds. So St. Kitts will use its CBI funds for the development of its people. The Barbados will use the tourism dollars for the development of the people. Antigua will use its tourism dollars. In Dominica, we will use our CBI funds for the development of our people. And we make no apologies for that, Madam Speaker. So therefore, there are those who want to destroy the CBI program and looking for always, when they are out there, they see the CBI fund as selling of passports and they find always to criticize it. But when they get an opportunity, they say, if we get into power, we will use the CBI money. That's how they speak, you know that. When they're out there, they criticize it. And when they get an opportunity, they are hoping to come into power. and hoping that they will meet enough CBI funds available so they could use to run their programs, Madam Speaker. But it's not going to happen. The Dominicans knows better. They know that the overall rebuilding of this country, only the Labour Party can assist us in the process, and they know no other party can do nothing to assist us, Madam Speaker. And so, Madam Speaker, we as a government, and I must say, Madam Speaker, I had the opportunity to be at a cabinet meeting with the World Bank officials who were here, and they recognize the efforts of the Honorable Prime Minister, and they made it clear that they were convinced just by listening to our Prime Minister when he spoke at the UN. He made a case for his country, Madam Speaker. He made a compelling case for his country that my country, as we speak, is in total destruction. And we are not responsible for the global warming that we are suffering from today. And therefore, you must come to help us. And the World Bank responded, because the World Bank also knew that this economy of our own, in spite of the fact that we were battered by Maria, we will rebuild ourselves and we'll be able to pay our loans because our track of paying our loans are in good standing. And therefore, the World Bank had no difficulty in giving our government $108 million for construction of new homes for our people, Madam Speaker. So this $108 million will be invested in the economy. And I said to the persons who are out there listening to me that we have not assisted with your homes. You will get your house. Your Labour Party government will build your house for you. But we cannot do for everybody at the same time. So it's a process. We have started the process, and we're doing first, which is the construction of roofs. We are building a few homes in between, but we are mainly concentrating first on the construction of roof. We are rapidly getting over the construction of roof. Then we have started all of these apartment buildings, which we are building for you. And then for most of the homes that we promised that we will build for you on your land, that is where your land is deemed to be safe, we will construct a house for you on your land. We will assist you in rebuilding. But trust me, this is a natural disaster of epic proportion. So it will take us some time to really rebuild this country. It will take us some time to get back, rebuild all of the homes that we have lost. So we just want you to bear with your government, and we will certainly be assisting you, Madam Speaker. And so, Madam Speaker, less than a year after Maria, we have already signed contracts for the construction of over 3,853 homes for our people in this Commonwealth of Dominica. Madam Speaker, this is remarkable. No other country is able to do that at this time, Madam Speaker. Not even the big United States is able to do that at this time. And so on. And that is why, even with all of these disasters, one of the indicators came out showing that among the entire Caribbean countries, in terms of GDP per capita, we rank number 7. 7 out of 23 countries. And when you listen to the opposition, they always tell you Dominica is next to Haiti. After Dominica is Haiti. And in the rank of these countries, Dominica is ranked number 7, and Haiti is number 23. So we are nowhere close to Haiti. We know. We feel the pulse of our economy. We know our economy is strong. We know we are fighting. Why do you think all of our credit unions are making so much money, Madam Speaker? Last year, every credit union on the island made a surplus. Every credit union and every banking institution on this island made a surplus, Madam Speaker. That's because the economy is strong. And the economy is driven, in some countries, the economy is driven by the private sector. But in this country, the economy is driven by the government of Dominica, the Dominican Labour Party government. We invest more in this economy than anybody else, Madam Speaker. And that is why you will see that the private sector know that. Those who are smart are rebuilding rapidly. My senator, he has given up on his hotel plans because the money came from the government system. He just gave up on the hotel. He just gave up on the hotel. But other persons are rebuilding their hotels because they know the amount of money that they're going to make as we continue to sell this country as the best place to come and free up. And as we prepare to build international airports, and as we prepare to build cruise village and so on, tourism is going to grow from leaps and bounds, Madam Speaker. So those who are smart are preparing for those days to come, Madam Speaker. And therefore, I say to all of my Dominican people, this is the time to take a slice of your country and develop yourself. Whatever plan you have for your own development, pursue it. Go for it. Let your government help you. All of the loans that we are putting out there in the aid bank, in agriculture, for hotels, and so on. And it's the most attractive of loans you will meet anywhere in the world. 2% loans for tourism development. Take advantage of this opportunity and go get some of this money. But you must be serious. You must be ready to work hard. Nothing comes easily. And build yourselves up by taking advantage of the monies that the government is putting all over the place for development. And develop yourselves and your respective communities, Madam Speaker, because the opportunities are there. And those who are smart enough are taking advantage of it, Madam Speaker. And so, Madam Speaker, the government clearly understands the limitations within the respective communities. The government knows that this new building effort that we're talking about, this building of a resilient country, and this new building standards that we want to implement across the island, the government knows that especially the rural communities, we are limited in our scope, and what the government has sought to do is to establish what is known as the Technical Assistance Committee, the TAC, in 7 districts. Some of them have already been opened. These centers will be staffed with officers trained in engineering, architecture, construction, project management, and social planning. So these teams, Madam Speaker, they will provide advice to homeowners and contractors and other interested parties to ensure that we maintain the new building code. So this is how far the government is going. All of this creating employment as well, you know. When you establish 7 centers with architects and social planners and so on, this is in fact creating employment, Madam Speaker. And I listened to the Senator Baptist because he spent some time working in the planning division. So therefore he's able to share some light, and he just runs and just say whatever he wants and so on. And government is not planning and say what he wants and so on. We were anger. But Madam Speaker, we've had UNDP here with us from the one. Immediately after Maria, UNDP, United Nations Development Program, they've been here with us assisting us as well in some of the guidelines that we've been following. So when you talk about no plan, that's because he himself has done nothing since Maria. Since Maria, the senator has done nothing to help not even one person in the constituency, Madam Speaker. That's why he cannot even consider putting himself to an election anymore, because he has not been able in touch with the people. And so, Madam Speaker, we are happy that these TSCs are in place for the most part. Most of them are in place, and they will be going in the communities. They'll be visiting homes. They'll be visiting construction sites. They'll be giving advice, and persons are expected to take the advices that they're given, because it's very important that we maintain standard, because as it turns out, climate change is real, and climate change is here. And we do not know when we will be affected by another heavy disaster of a magnitude of category 5, and we have to prepare for it. And we've been preparing for it, no, Madam Speaker. I heard the senator spoke about and they like when things are bad happening to Dominica, Madam Speaker. That's where they spend their time, on things that are not going well. So he was able to identify all of the bridges that were destroyed. But he's here to recognize the bridge that he criticized, that we should not have constructed, Madam Speaker, in Roseau and so on, where they said it was a waste of money. But it was thanks to that bridge. And he's so much not in touch. He's even saying that he thinks it's waste of money to fix up the Isilo Black Bridge. Could you imagine that, Madam Speaker? The kind of traffic jam we are having when you're coming into Roseau in the mornings, those of us who come in from the north and northeast. And I'm listening to the senator saying that this is a waste of money to fix that bridge because we have enough arteries to come in and out of town. He's a madman, really and truly, you know. Yeah, we need to fix that bridge as soon as possible, so that we can have a heavy flow into the city.
No, that is unparliamentary, madman.
Well, yes, Madam Speaker, he's probably mad for you, but we should take it back. I agree. Yes, he may well be, but we should still take it back, Madam Speaker. So therefore, I'm taking it back, Madam Speaker. But Madam Speaker, just to listen to the gentleman coming into this house, the stressors that we have, some of us, when we have to get into town in the morning to get to work, especially during school days. And the man is saying to us, we should not repair the major bridge in the middle of the city, and he called himself a social planner. No, man, this man can only plan he can only plan his games. That's all he can plan, his games. I don't think he can plan anything else. No? But we need to fix that bridge rapidly. And Mr. Minister, Minister of Public Works, push your guys. Yes, we need that bridge fixed almost immediately, Madam Speaker, so that we can move into the city at ease and move out of the city at ease, and so on. Because, Madam Speaker, as the economy grows, everybody wants to have their own vehicle. And we respect that. Once you're working and you can afford to pay your loan, buy your vehicle, my dear. However, it's a government responsibility to provide the road network to really sustain all of the vehicles that are coming in and so on. And we cannot continue to have people coming into the city and this main entry is affected and so on. So we're looking forward, as a matter of fact, to the completion of this bridge, the Isilo Black Bridge, so that it could be easier for us. And so, Madam Speaker, as I said, these teams, TSCs, will be providing advice to persons who are presently constructing houses, and across the island, they'll be visiting all of the projects, all of the government projects, all of the private projects that persons are undertaking on their own, to ensure that we maintain the building code and the building standard, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, as a minister in the Ministry of Housing, I must turn on a bit on the Casablanca constituency, Madam Speaker. Because, Madam Speaker, we are undertaking a massive housing reconstruction project in the Casablanca constituency, Madam Speaker. The 66 residential unit in Casablanca has already started, and work is going on. It's on a beautiful site. Again, I heard the senator criticize again that the site is not a good place for housing. But he wants us to take all the Casablanca land. No, we're not going to do that. Agriculture is growing in Casablanca. And we're going to go back to the time when every acre of land in Casablanca was planted. We're going to go back to that time, Madam Speaker, because of the investment that the Minister of Agriculture will speak about in agriculture. The 25 million US that is going to be invested in agriculture. And this is one of the areas where we are targeting to take advantage of that. So we're not going to take all the agricultural land in Casablanca and put houses in it. No! Casablanca has to play a meaningful role in the food security of this country and the export strategy of this country, Madam Speaker. And we're going to maintain that, Madam Speaker. And so the construction of the 66 units, they're ongoing in Casablanca, and I'm looking forward to the completion of these buildings. And I'm so happy for the employment opportunity this building is already bringing in Casablanca. In Saint-Sauveur, we have also started the construction of the units, as I said earlier on, and we're doing some major clearing in that area. And I want to again thank the family who agreed to sell the land for government for that construction. In Saint-Sauveur as well, we are presently reconstructing the 7 houses which were destroyed by Maria, to the tune of well over $100,000 per unit for reconstruction. And then 7 contractors are fully engaged. They are presently doing the roofing of these houses. And each of these contractors, they have at least 5 young men, guys who have just graduated, guys who have left school, guys who are on holidays. They're working with them, and this is beautiful. In Casablanca, the housing settlement in Casablanca, all of the houses have been repaired. The 10 houses that we built for needy families, government repaired all the houses for these families, and they're very comfortable in their houses. We've had to change the windows, change the roofs, change whatever, but everything has been done. And the carpenters are really getting work to do. And I also want to thank the Cuban government for the team. And Madam Speaker, we should put our hands together for the Cubans, you know. That's another friend of ours again. That's another good friend of the government of Dominica, who are one of the first respondents whenever a disaster strike or island or anything is going wrong in our island. Whether it's medical or whatever, the Cubans are always there to assist. And so government has entered into an agreement with the Cuban government for 100 skilled men. Some 85 of them are already on island. As you know, they did most of the work on the Dominica State College, and they'll be covering all the government buildings. But of importance to me is that they are part of the rebuilding effort in the Casablanca constituency. We started in Gouroup, where they have covered well over 20 houses, and they're now moving they're into Saint-Sauveur, and they're on their way to Pidisoufuye to assist us in covering a lot of houses there for our needy people. As you know, Madam Speaker, with the limitation of skilled personnel in the area, you find that you are behind time with the overall covering of the houses, and I'm happy that we have this team of Cubans. Well over 25 Cubans are in the area assisting us with the covering of the houses for the people in Kurup, in Saint-Sauveur, and in Pidisoufuye, and the families are very much appreciative and they are very happy that we have this team assisting us. I want to again say to the persons who have lost their homes in its entirety, just bear with your rep, bear with your government. We will certainly be assisting you over time. Persons who have lost everything and must be relocated and are waiting patiently to be settled in the apartments in Saint-Sauveur and to be settled in the apartments in Castle Bruce. No matter what Senator Baptiste says, he will not change the price of bread. These persons have been affected. He has not been affected as bad as these people. It's our responsibility, government responsibility to take care of them, and we will definitely be assisting them, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, another area of comfort for me is the number of persons in the constituency who have built concrete roofs, at least 2 bedrooms of their houses. There's one area in Gurup where almost 8 families put their roofs in concrete. With government support, Madam Speaker, I add, with the funds that government made available to them, they have chosen to put their roofs in concrete. Some of them they built the columns that they needed to build to ensure that the houses are strong enough, and we've given them steel. I've really been giving them steel. So they got the steel free from government. They got the binding wire from government. They got the foam ply from government, and they've gotten some cash from their pal rep, which they're using to mainly pay their labor and buy their cement and whatever is missing. And these people are comfortable. And some of them don't even have windows yet, and they're already telling me before they can come in, we're nowhere. Staying in their homes and so on. And then we will eventually assist them with the windows down the line and so on to make sure that it is fully completed and they have their hurricane shelter, Madam Speaker. Yeah, we're giving them steel. And Madam Speaker, we are not looking at political party. We're helping all our people, Madam Speaker. Once you are in need, we are helping you. And that's why I was taken back by the senator. The senator knows in Castle Bruce, we're not on the island, we're not looking at party colors for this housing renovation program and rebuilding effort. And he comes into this honorable house, Madam Speaker, and talk about how we are politicizing the ration. Madam Speaker, when we were giving disaster relief, the milk and the flour, he used to get the biggest package, at my office. He would come and pick up his package of his milk like everybody else, and his rice and his sugar and so on, like everybody else, and so on. And he got his materials too, like everybody else, Madam Speaker. So we've been taking care of him, and so on. So therefore, I don't understand why he has to come. But I do not blame him, because he is not in touch. He doesn't know what is going on in the constituency. He doesn't know the life of the people. I have an interesting scenario in my community, Madam Speaker, where the opposition does nothing for 4.5 years. And then the last half a year before election calls, they did everything. And now very soon you won't get a space at a funeral because they'll be there and they have never been to any funeral since the last election. But that's how they operate. They only come, you only see them during an election. And then they disappear again till the next election and so on. And that is why where they are, that's where they're going to stay. They will stay where they are, 18 years and counting. They'll be counting more years in opposition, my dear. I can assure you of that, Madam Speaker. And so, Madam Speaker, I'm very happy about what is happening, especially these persons who are building these concrete houses, roofs, so that it will limit the number of persons I have to move to shelters. But I'm also excited because in the housing component that we're building in the constituency, the apartment blocks, there will be special facilities in these apartment buildings as hurricane shelters, Madam Speaker, which will be fully equipped. The Prime Minister has made it clear that these facilities will be fully equipped with mattresses and stoves, and we will ensure kitchen appliances and everything else. Everything will be there. And in Castle Bruce constituency, We may have to move, if we have to move people from Pitisufwe, certainly we'll have to move them one day before the storm gets there, and then they will be able to stay a couple of days after the storm, because it always takes me a week to get to Pitisufwe anyway, after we have disasters and so on, because we will naturally have the road blocked and all of these things and so on. So we're going to build these facilities both in Casaros and in Sansove in the new building construction that we're going to be building for the people, and the people will be very, very safe if this is a strike. At the same time, I must thank all of the private persons who are coming back from overseas to their roofs. They're, in fact, creating employment as well by being in the community, and we're helping them, Madam Speaker. Even those who come from overseas, we're helping them too, to rebuild their houses and so on. So, Madam Speaker, this housing thing, it's nothing soft. It's a massive undertaking, Madam Speaker. But we are equal to the task. And while I'm at it, I want to thank the housing officers, the permanent secretary, Mr. Blackmore, the housing officer, Mr. Lloyd, and the other team members, the London surveyors team as well. They're the ones who have to do all of these surveys rapidly for us so we could acquire the lands we need for all of the work that we are undertaking within the Ministry of Housing to ensure that we give adequate attention to the rebuilding of houses for people across the board and across the island. So nobody's going to stop us, Madam Speaker. We just pray that the CBI continues to provide the funds that we need to help our people, because for sure our economic tax threshold cannot allow us to do those things. We are only 70,000. Mr. Baptist does not know the population of Dominica, but I should tell him he should be listening. We're just 70,000 people. And therefore, the tax threshold is small. And we have to find other ways and means of sustaining our economy. In the meantime, disasters continue to strike on us. So thank God for CBI, that we can use it as a bridge to assist us in assisting our country, and we'll continue to do that, Madam Speaker. I just want to quickly recognize all of the other work that is going on in the constituency, especially the work being done by the DVRP through the World Bank and the Ministry of Environment. And we have quite a few major retaining walls under construction in Mont Bois-Diab, and we're seeing work being done on Live Yellow Bridge, the railing of the bridge, the retaining wall in Belfie, the one on the Bayfront in Casabrus, the Calais Bridge, the work that's going to be done on the Calais Bridge, the Mount Prince Junction in Sansove, all of the work that is going to be done here, the Good Hope Junction, all of the work that is going to be done there, Brong in Sansove, and all of this as a first phase of work under the Disaster Vulnerability Reduction Project, where some major disaster interventions are being undertaken, walls are being built, and we're also looking forward to the major road rehabilitation project that we will see in the Casabrus constituency, where the road will be reconstructed from Poncase to Tarishpit to Casabrus, Casabrus to Hatton Garden, and Casabrus to Pitisufwe. These are going to be some major undertaking in the constituency, and I'm happy that we are providing these opportunities because of all of this work, Madam Speaker. Presently in Casabrus now, everybody is working. Every young man is employed somewhere. If you are not employed at this time, you don't want to work. Sure. Because if you're not on houses, you are in the major housing project or you are in the road projects, but there's an employment for every young man. Even the young ladies too, Madam Speaker, they're employed on the road projects with the signs and so on, doing what they're doing. And it's my pleasure in the morning when I'm heading to town to give these guys a ride and take them to work, because I'm happy that they're going to work, Madam Speaker. Nobody's on the block. The block is clean in Casabrus. Nobody's on the block because everybody is working. There's a job for every man who wants to work. And I must thank my government for creating the enabling environment to the point where just 10 months after a major disaster like Maria, we can have everybody in the community who really want to work gainfully employed, Madam Speaker, and this in itself is remarkable. And so, Madam Speaker, we will continue to move our community forward. We will assist our people. We have we're going to be constructing the building at Sikwi, where the sporting pavilion. This will be reconstructed. We'll be doing development in fishing. We are going to repair the fishing facility in Saint-Sauveur for all of the lockers and so on. I want to thank the Fisheries Division, especially Mr. Sebastian, for all of his effort in we getting to do this work in Saint-Sauveur. But most importantly, Madam Speaker, we are building homes for our people. So I want to say to the Dominican community, stand by your government. Stand with your government. Stand with your respective parent. Support your Prime Minister. Pray for your government. Pray for your country. Let us build this country one step at a time. But most importantly, do not be distracted, Madam Speaker. We will help our students back to school. We are already registering our students who is going to be needing help. All of these programs will fall in place, Madam Speaker. Our students who are at the college, those who are at university, all of them, they will be assisted, Madam Speaker. So I'm just happy, Madam Speaker, to be part of the government, part of the team who will be implementing the 2018-2019 budget, a budget with a vision for rebuilding this country, a budget which will touch every corner of development in this country. And I thank God for blessing us with a good leader, for blessing us with a cabinet where camaraderie and friendship is the order of the day, and for blessing us with a country that prays for its people. God bless Dominica. I support the budget, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker, I rise as Minister of Ecclesiastical Affairs, Family and Gender Affairs, and Parliamentary Representative for the Collier constituency to make my contribution to the 2018-2019 budget address. But I just want to bring to the attention, this morning I saw something, Madam Speaker, and I thought, well, things were good. When I saw the United Workers' Party parliamentarians coming in their colored, unified process, I said, this is a united team. Yeah. But then I saw the leader in brown, and I said, things are brown. Then I saw the deputy leader in white. I said, oh my God, they've surrendered. So, and I do not know what process is going on now. So I hope they're not somewhere in caucus coming now to wave their surrender flags or something because of their absence here today. But let me first commend the Honorable Prime Minister and Minister for Finance for delivering this remarkable budget address for the 2018-19 fiscal year. The theme, from survival to sustainability and success, a resilient Dominica, by God's grace and our joint efforts, brings into sharp focus the roadmap for survival and for building a more resilient Dominica. Notwithstanding the setback caused to the country's economy by Hurricane Maria, the Prime Minister has presented a budget which is tailored towards resilience in every sector. And I can see Dominica poised for rapid economic recovery, Mr. Speaker. I am indeed pleased to support this exceptional and relevant budget. We have to look at what's happening now, the context in which we are surviving now, and the budget is tailored to meet the circumstances that we are in. So it's very relevant. Mr. Speaker, we all know how difficult the latter part of the 2017-2018 financial year was for Dominica. The impact of the passage of Hurricane Maria would have crippled any country without sound leadership. But thanks to the sterling leadership of the Roosevelt-Skerrit-led administration, Dominica, though fallen, did not lie defeated in the dust. Mr. Speaker, we survive, and we will continue to grow from strength to strength. Why, Mr. Speaker? One key word, leadership. We saw leadership in action 4 days after this horrific situation. Our Prime Minister found himself, left his family behind, and found himself, his concern was for the people of Dominica. He found himself, he gave you the situation whereby he found himself, wet clothes, no shoes, to bring our plight and our situation to the wider world. Mr. Speaker, the words expressed by him were piercing. And I will not go, everybody should have seen the address at the UN. And if you allow me to quote some of the things that he said, which really should have touched hearts. When he addressed the UN, he said, Mr. President, we dug graves today in Dominica. We buried loved ones yesterday. And I'm sure that as I return home tomorrow, we shall discover additional fatalities as a consequence of this encounter. Our homes are flattened, our buildings roofless, our water pipes smashed, and road infrastructure destroyed. Our hospital is without power, and schools have disappeared beneath the rubble. Our crops are uprooted, and the sad story goes on. And it's in this context, with the help that we've been getting from friendly governments and our neighboring partners, that we are here today to present this budget to make it, as I said, very relevant to our needs and our circumstances. I will, in my presentation, just address, because everything has been said about Maria and what we went through, and everybody knew what happened after the 18th of September. So I will take my address to my ministry and my constituency. My ministry, during Maria, then Ministry of Social Services, Family and Gender Affairs, played a an extremely critical role in the recovery efforts. The ministry was not intimidated by the mammoth task which we faced as a result of that monster hurricane. We worked in close collaboration with stakeholder ministries and organizations, both local and international, in delivering vital services in the areas. We did assessments, we had to take care of shelters, we had to look at housing, we had to look at the financial and material relief for people. One of the most highly appreciated initiatives under that ministry, Mr. Speaker, was the emergency cash transfer, which was implemented by the then Ministry of Social Services and in collaboration with UNICEF and World Food Program. And the number of single parents, the people with disabilities, people who had lost their livelihoods, these were the target, the vulnerable people we were targeting for that. We have seen since the change in nomenclature, it's now with the Ministry of Health and Social Services, it still continues today. But I have to say thank you to these people, because what we learned from that, because we were the ministry of, the paupers allowance that we gave the vulnerable people, we did the Yes We Care. But what that taught us, a lot out of Maria, was that we needed to do things better. They taught us how we could capture the vulnerabilities of people in a one-pager and get the whole picture so that we could be more effective in helping. And I just want to say thank you to UNICEF and the World Food Program, because still under that ministry is the gender affairs. We still have local government, which I'll speak to later. So areas where the shelter, we still have to assist in the shelter, though it's under ODM. So this training that staff got from the World Food people, from UNICEF, has helped not only in the helping of people, but has asked us it has set the pace for us to re-examine what we were doing and to take the best practices to implement things better. So going forward, these are the lessons we have learned. Now, Mr. Speaker, coming as it did only 2 months into the financial year, Hurricane Maria caused a significant setback to the ministry's programming. We had to reposition our funds to rebuild offices that were looted, they were vandalized. Additionally, the ministry's program was redesigned to support the relief and recovery process, because the Ministry of Social Services at the time was the ministry, we really dealt with the relief supply situation. We were very integral in that part. Mr. Speaker, the ministry continues to function as a driving force for the improved social well-being of the populace and to facilitate a transition to a more just society. It is strongly committed to the development of the family as a critical component of society. And Mr. Speaker, in the new reorganization of the ministry, when we placed the ecclesiastical affairs, people thought they were hearing that for the first time. That was a new ministry, but it was already part of the ministry. But it was so subsumed in the other areas of vulnerability that it didn't shine. And so by bringing it to the fore, what we are seeing now, we can partner with the churches to bring a greater stability, greater progress, greater involvement with the family, greater structure to help families develop better. And that's what, because when God wants to take his people somewhere, he comes in a way and he brings things at the fore. And that's what is happening, Mr. Speaker. So what this has brought for us is closer collaboration with religious leaders and leaders of other faiths. Not only Christians, but we have to involve all other faith-based organizations, regardless to what faith you believe in. Because by the very nature of their work, they exert a strong influence on the family structure and the nation by extension. Mr. Speaker, we have had preliminary discussions with the religious leaders, all faith, Christians, the Rastafarians who represented the Muslim faith. We had that first meeting, and going forward, we intend to draft a program for the year which will target pertinent issues which can be addressed with intervention of religious faith-based organizations. And our constitution states that we're not supposed, church and state, not supposed to mingle so much. We are not going to interfere in their religious teachings, in the way that they do things, but we look into the church for guidance so that we can bring greater comfort to our people to have a just and peaceful society. Now, Mr. Speaker, I will now speak to some of the things that are left under the new ministry. We have gender affairs, which still remains. The Bureau of Gender Affairs, it has been working assiduously in various areas of recovery, that's their portfolio, and development. It works with gender in cross-cutting gender issues, and as such, the Bureau is being called to collaborate. We have to collaborate with other ministries. One of the main focus of that ministry is advocacy, planning, training, empowering people so that men do not take advantage of women and vice versa. We want to empower both sexes. And we want to ensure that the programs that we set are gender sensitive. Now, as stipulated in the manifesto, the Compendium of Policies in 2015, the Bureau of Gender Affairs continues to monitor and respond vigorously to incidents of domestic violence. And we have a lot of that happening in Dominica. Many people say, why don't we build a home for people who, so that they can escape from the violence that happens to them in the house. But Dominica is a small place, and no matter where you build a home, the perpetrators will find the victims. And so we have to do we have to go some other way in training and giving awareness and raising the awareness so that people can protect themselves and do what is best for them. Now, these things are essential for the successful implementation of the law. We have to implement the law in gender-based violence, in particularly the Protection Against Domestic Violence Act and the Protection Against Sexual Offenses Act. That is part of the mandate of that ministry. And so we passed the Sexual Offenses Act. But one of the things that is still happening is that people tend to cover up. They cover up the acts. And even if you put all these laws in place to protect the young ones, to protect the vulnerable ones, you still find sometimes the people are paid off, they are hushed, and then the condition continues. And I think we have to try to wipe that out so that people can come and report cases and protect our young ones, protect our children. Over the past year, Mr. Speaker, the Bureau of Gender Affairs has been incorporating a gender perspective in development and planning, as I said earlier, and the implementation of the National Gender Policy and Action Plan. This was initially adopted in 2006. It was updated in 2014. It's now undergoing review to take into consideration the Sustainable Development Goals and climate resilience. Because climate change, as we see, is one of the things that impacts our life, and it's going to set the pace for how we live and how we plan and how we do everything. Mr. Speaker, gender is an integral part of disaster management and responds to and shapes the extent to which men, women, boys, and girls are vulnerable to and affected by disasters which accentuate existing gender inequalities. One of the things with the Gender Bureau, though it's under my ministry, I still think there's much we have to do for the all-inclusiveness of the various genders, because you have the male gender, the female gender, the in-between genders, and you have different genders. And we have to be more sensitive to the various genders so that we can provide for them. All genders, all genders. The impact of Hurricane Maria was severe for the country's economy, as well as the human and social development of its citizens. Immediately after communication services were restored, the Bureau of Gender Affairs collaborated with UN Women and the United Nations Population Fund and key stakeholders to distribute 2,000 dignity kits to hurricane victims to assist in their safety and increase their dignity. And everybody should know what dignity kits are. Additionally, as part of the relief and recovery efforts post-Hurricane Maria, the Bureau conducted gender-specific needs assessments with vulnerable groups, both men and women. We provided psychological support sessions in Castle Bruce and Silver Lake, and we organized focus group discussions with farmers in 5 communities, namely Bellevue, Chopin, Mount Prosper, Marigot, Campbell, and Warner. Mr. Speaker, apart from the above awareness activities, the Bureau of Gender Affairs is in the process of developing and implementing special projects centered around gender and gender-based violence and climate resilience, livelihood recovery, and wealth distribution. Some of these projects include training for women and adolescent girls affected by Hurricane Maria and strengthening of systems to prevent gender-based violence against women and girls. Both projects are funded by the United Nations Population Fund, and an amount of $200,000 is allocated for that training. We also dealing with the capacity building to coordinate policy advocacy and constructive engagement on gender equality and sustainable development. And this capacity building workshop is funded by the Caribbean Development Bank in an amount of $25,000. Also part of the program of the Bureau of Gender Affairs, support to women smallholder farmers in Dominica. This support will be funded by the UN Women Society, the Bureau of Gender Affairs and the UN Women. They conducted a rapid assessment with women and men farmers in 5 communities in October 2017. And as part of the response to key findings, the UN Women agreed to provide financial support to women smallholder farmers, and as a result, 67 farmers will receive support to conduct labor on their farms, while 4 farmer groups will receive agricultural inputs, including equipment, tools, and seeds. And that's what the Bureau of Gender Affairs is doing. In the fiscal year, however, 2018-2019, what we plan to do is accelerate the approval of the national policy and action plan for gender equality and equality, which makes special consideration for emerging and relevant gender issues specific to the national context. And we also want to develop and implement special projects around gender-based violence, poverty, inclusivity, social protection, wealth creation, and redistribution, as mentioned earlier. Another department on the ministry, the new ministry, is the local government department. One of the key functions of the local government department is that of village councils. Mr. Speaker, when I grew up, I know local government, village councils, their main concern was community, development of community, regardless to race, color, political affiliation. It was a community-based organization where everybody got involved. Mr. Speaker, I am very perturbed by some of the things that are happening in some of the village councils. And the councils where we have the most problems now are councils where political interference takes place. You hear from the other side that this party is interfering. But if we go and take in all the problems that we have, you will see, and the research will show you, that it's not this government that is bringing that kind of disrepute to these local government entities. And it's a very, very sad state of affairs. Mr. Speaker, I'll give you one instance, for example. There's a problem at one council. We went to the council in an effort to solve the problem. We had an amicable meeting. I was handed a letter at the meeting to terminate the job of somebody at that meeting. Terminate on the basis of the things we had just solved. So from that onset, you could see that it wasn't solution-oriented. And these are the things that are happening in some of the councils that are causing a lot of problems. We have an issue with confidentiality. Mr. Speaker, a lot of money now is being generated through councils. And in the housing revolution, in the rebuilding back better after Maria, large sums are being sent to the councils for disbursement to individuals for housing repair. That is the quickest way you can get it to people so that they can repair their houses. It comes from the Ministry of Housing, the names, the amounts. But before the people can get it, the names are on the street. People have their business all over the place. And this is, lack of confidentiality. So trust is an issue in the village councils. And village councils were not meant to operate that way. And it's given to the forerunners of village council, the Mr. Josephs and all these people. I mean, they must be turning in their grave. They must be churning to see what is happening to the village councils now. But it's not all bad for them. I must say the local government department, they've been trying their best. I have to thank Mr. Fontaine, who has since retired after Maria, for his sterling work in the council. They're now under new leadership, Mr. Toussaint, and through his department, they're trying to strengthen the village councils and community-based organization. The local government department, it's trying to enhance the local authorities to assist communities in getting their fair share of benefits. Mr. Speaker, I heard this morning a member was, as we sent things to the council, they were saying that the council should be the one doing the assessments, submitting to government. But if we have to wait, maybe we won't have houses covered in many instances. We have to be proactive in what we do for the people. What happens with the housing thing and the money going to the councils? I heard the honorable member for the Roseau North constituency say he has submitted how many invoices and he has not received anything. It is not done that way. What happens with the councils and how the money gets to them? People, anybody can bring you an invoice for anything. You bring an invoice, and assessments were made after Hurricane Maria. You have names. So you have houses you have to repair. I'll give you, for example, my community, my constituency. Some people have brought in invoice, but we had teams from the housing department going to the places to assess the nature of the destruction of the houses. And based on that assessment, they came up with a material listing, they came up with a costing, and that was submitted, and then you submit that to the Minister of Finance, and through housing, you'd get the payment, which then goes back to the council for payment. But it's nothing like pal reps in saying whatever. Everybody from my area, for example, no one is left behind. Because when Maria came and uncovered the house of everybody. We got color, race, creed. It did not select. And to say that we, as a government, we have a bias, a party bias in the way that we are assisting people, that is totally untrue. You cannot just bring an invoice and expect to get money. An assessment must be done to verify. Sometimes, in my area, for example, people have brought in invoices. When you send the housing officer to do the assessment, it's much more than they need. So you have to follow protocol to get the right things and then to get the money. So it's not just bringing invoices and getting it, because anybody can bring anything, and if you have to go that way, you won't succeed in helping people, you won't have money to help people. So we have to do things right. Now, following the devastation, the passage of Hurricane Maria, the local government department had to realign its program of activities in keeping with the response of the recovery process. Considerable effort was placed on the effective and efficient administration of the emergency shelters. And that is another part under the local government. I heard talk about the shelters, that we should be building shelters, but we know the limitations. But we had a lot of limitations in the shelters. Mr. Speaker, the activities that they did were not limited, but included some of the things. They had to coordinate the distribution of relief supplies, they had to monitor the shelters, collaborate with health personnel, and do a lot of consultation, run a review of responses to Hurricane Maria, making recommendations for the way forward. They had to collaborate with all international organizations for migration. You know, we hosted a series of workshops for shelter managers and assistant managers. And Mr. Speaker, one of the things that came out, because of the long timing in the hurricane's effect on us, how many weeks, shelter managers were just stressed out because of the attitude of people in the shelters. People came to the shelters, not that they had houses anywhere. People were in rented apartments, they came to the shelters. Yes, we have to take care of them. It is our duty. That is what we sign up to do as government, to take care of the people. But the stress that some of the people gave to the shelter managers led to the resignation of many shelter managers because they just couldn't cope. And I just hope that coming out of all of this, going forward, if another hurricane has to hit us, we have to have policies in place when people come into a shelter. A shelter is not supposed to be a long-term thing. And we have to put the policies in place so that we have clear guidelines. When you come to the shelter, what is expected of you? If you're not compliant to what is there, then what are the consequences of it? And I think we're lacking in that. That is why today we have many, many people at the shelters. Some shelters. The shelters that the people are there, the people had no homes. They were renting. The landlords did not take them back when they fixed their house, and a lot of those things are going on. And that is why we still have people. We built some transitional homes for people until such time that we can assist them in maybe finding housing. Because we are going through a process. The first phase we did was relief, food supplies. What we are doing now, and what we tried to do before the hurricane season started, was to cover houses of people who had gone roofless, windows, doors, and roof. We have not yet tackled people who have lost their houses completely. It's a process, because this is a mammoth task. So we are still at the stage of helping people with their roofs, helping people with their windows. We're not at the stage of helping people with tiling. We're not in the stage of fixing people downstairs. We're not in the stage of doing ceilings for people. We just, in that hurricane season, want people to have a safe place, and so that is the process we are doing. It's a process. One of the things I want to remind people in that process, because we have a little disenfranchisement. You cannot do everybody at one time, but your turn will come. Let's look for the most vulnerable first in the communities. And not because this person, people submit invoices, that person need, let's say, was about 20,000. Another person need 5,000, but when the 5,000 hears that one got 20,000, they tell you they didn't get enough. But that was their invoice. And so we have to be educating people as to what we are really doing so that they can understand. It's not about getting, it's about helping. And we really have to work on that to train our people, their attitudes and everything, and that we have to go back to that training thing. A total of 120 shelter managers. We had a total of 120 shelter managers that were trained, and assistant managers, and they are now better able to execute their shelter management functions. So if anything like Maria happens again, then I guess maybe all the problems that we had will not come to, because we'll have people better trained to assist in behavior modification and all these kind of things. We had to modify some emergency shelter assessment forms to include valuable details, which we hadn't got, because we had to capture family size, the vulnerabilities, whether they had land and house, whether the ownership of that, and the needs of the people. We conducted a damage assessment of 140 shelters that were used for the 2017 hurricane season. A total of 40% of the shelters were severely damaged. So the shelters themselves, going into this hurricane season we're in now, we have 40% damage of these hurricane shelters. We have some areas, some communities where we don't even have shelters. My own community in Colihu. But I want to say thank you to people like Velma Charles who open their homes to people and to the vulnerable. They take them in. Louise, they have opened their homes, and if anything, they will take in people because we do not have a shelter. There are lots of people who assist. We have assisted people in obtaining temporary housing and amenities because, as you know, people lost all their things, and so the ministry has done that. We have replaced the shelter managers that we've lost, and so going in this hurricane season, we are in a better shape than we were. We're not perfect, but we're in a better shape than we were. We just have to keep praying that we receive no visit, as the PM said, by Maria or any of her cousins. Another thing under the local government is the National Day, Community Day of Service. For this year, we have an increase. It used to be 200,000, 250,000 is now budgeted. But we have changed the emphasis. People used to beautify and do those things, but building back better, building resilience, we want people to select programs that can be finished or projects that can be finished on the day itself. The emphasis we are going for this year will be around the central theme of community resilience, in keeping with the National Trust for making Dominica the first climate resilient country in the world. The projects identified will, in great measure, contribute to this effort. We will take a total of 120 projects, and some of the projects will include, for those of you, I know, Mr. Speaker, you're part of the local government, the projects that will include building of ramps at community resource centers, used as shelters to facilitate persons with disabilities, planting of trees and flowers for slope stabilization, rehabilitation and construction of roads and storm drains to control flood water, specific to that, not just drains to make a place beautiful, but to control flood water, and construction and installation of hurricane shutters at public facilities, such as community resource centers used as emergency shelters. So community-based organization, local government, these people can submit projects which will meet those, and then if you submit any other thing, you will not be able to get assistance to have a community project. Mr. Speaker, the department will continue in collaboration with ODM, because shelters is really under ODM, but because of the wealth of experience and knowledge that we have, we are still working with them to ensure that the communities are in a state of readiness for adverse weather events. We have made steady progress in conducting assessment of shelters and have updated the list of emergency shelters. The list appears in the newspaper, and if anybody can go through the newspaper, if in your community you see that some people, we had some shelter managers, maybe they passed prior to the publication of the list, so you can inform the department that these people are not here or they have migrated, but we have done some homework. But any things are dynamic, it can happen, and the people may have left just before the hurricane season. So let us know from the list that we have published if everything is okay. As I said before, we have made steady progress in conducting assessment of shelters, and we have updated the list and personnel to manage the shelters, and we have made recommendations, like call you for areas without shelters. Activities will be centered on resilience, including the establishment of functional disaster management committees. That doesn't exist in many communities. Providing training for disaster committees and shelter managers in building community resilience. So we have to use ODM more for areas where there are these committees to come and do a little training prior to the hurricane. We must always consult the communities in which we are going to work. So we need to conduct meetings with community stakeholders in disaster management initiatives. Monitoring the climate resilience mechanism in communities in line with the national focus on building a climate resilient nation, and networking with community-based organizations, faith-based organizations, and other interest groups in the mobilization of communities towards hazards and mitigation efforts. So all this is on the local government. Mr. Speaker, I wish to express my heartfelt thanks to the Honorable Minister and Minister for Finance for approving funds for new tipper truck for the local government. We had a truck, they had to be wiring it, wire starting it. And that was the truck that's cultural, all your activities for independence. So we have a new truck. We also have, along with that tipper truck, we have a number of tents which will be exclusively available to communities to facilitate village and other events organized by councils, government ministries, and departments. We have that stock, so you can ask in advance, and once it's not booked, these people will get it. All community-based organization and the less fortunate and the elderly, any event that you have, we are willing to help. So, another function of the ministry is the Basic Needs Trust Fund. Mr. Speaker, BNTF, popularly known as, that is something run by the CDB, and the implementation rate under those projects are really low implementation rate. The Basic Needs Trust Fund undertakes, what it does is that it undertakes poverty reduction initiatives in collaboration with communities through the establishment of necessary community-based infrastructure and appropriate skills training ventures. We had BNTF 7, Mr. Speaker. The primary outlook, it was for 2017-2018, involved the continuation of implementation on the BNTF 7 program. The CDB waived the government's initial counterpart requirement of 5% and provided an additional grant of EC $943,570. So approximately $10.6 million was budgeted, is budgeted, and will fund sub-projects in 3 categories: basic community access and drainage, education and human resource development, and water and sanitation system enhancement. Mr. Speaker, while we face some setbacks with Maria, we had some major projects accomplished. Works reached practical completion on 3 infrastructure projects: the Monramier Road, Woodford Hill Farm Road rehabilitation. The contract, $1.3 million. This project will impact positively on the lives of 545 males and 489 females. We had also the Bellevue Chopin water supply upgrade. The contract was signed for $1,588,363.69. This project was intended to enhance the supply of potable water to 168 households. We had the Clifton Primary School retaining wall. Works are at an advanced stage. The contract signed for EC $144,844.25. 62 students will directly benefit from that project. Mr. Speaker, on June 11th, 2018, there was a project signing for 5 projects. Contracts were signed for 5 projects. The Wesley Woodford Hill Marigot Water Rehabilitation, an amount of $896,115 for that was signed for that project. We also had the Salisbury Water Supply Rehabilitation, an amount of $1,575,725.80 was signed for that project. We also had the La Plaine Water, the contract was signed for the La Plaine Water Supply. $1,416,113.87 was signed for that. For the Wesley project, the constructor, the construction firm, Stuco construction firm, so that you all can monitor. The La Plaine That project was given to Offshore Civil and Marine, the Salisbury Jazz Sail. Also signed on June 11th was the Pierre Charles Auto Mechanics upgrade for $516,866.14. We also had the Good Hope Resource Center retaining wall, quick designs, $172,500. And I didn't want to mention anything, but it has been said all over sometimes that we do not give our local contractors jobs here. And all these are local contractors. And though we've signed the contract on June 11th, what is happening now is the department is currently awaiting contractors, the contractors, to submit their performance bonds and insurances before work can begin. And that is what we are waiting on. The money is there, the contracts have been signed, and that is what we've been waiting on for that. We also have 2 other projects signed. Bagatelle for Seja Water Supply Rehabilitation, $973,420.80, and the Boetica Water Supply Rehabilitation, $1,310,174.89. So all these are projects for communities and things that we're going to have. Now the Calibishi, also for Calibishi River Defense Wall, up to the time of writing, CDB had given no objection to award the contract for EC $359,627.60. The documents were submitted for approval to the Ministry of Finance. This has since been done, and the contract has been awarded for that Calibishi River Defense. So all these BNTF 7 and BNTF 8 will be running concurrently, simultaneously, side by side. BNTF 9, the grant agreement for BNTF 9 has been signed. An amount of $6.9 million is available for funding of sub-projects, and the Ministry of Finance has advised on a list of projects for funding. Meanwhile, CDB has engaged a consultant to prepare a country policy framework for BNTF 9. Mr. Speaker, what I want to advise our contractors, not because something is going, not because there is a sale of something, like in sale, we run and buy things and we do not need it and we put it there and we forget. Not because if you know you do not have the capacity, you cannot deliver, please help us. Let somebody else get it so that the work can go on, so that we can have implementation of those projects there. And people shouldn't be just running after projects. Let us do things and get things done so that the country can move and our people can be happy. Cooperatives, Mr. Speaker, you may recall that in the last budget, $1 million was appropriated for the cooperatives division. This is at the bank. But after Maria, there was great destruction. And some of the cooperative, why we have not dispersed, because we have asked the cooperative division to go back to these people. Because some of the projects, take for example, there was a coconut rehab. We do not have coconuts. Most of our things were destroyed. The beehives, some of the things were destroyed. Some of the cooperatives, they're not operational anymore. So what we want to ensure that the money goes in revitalizing the cooperative division. So what we are asking for is evidence-based data as to the existence of the cooperatives. If you exist, you should have had a meeting. So who are your board members? When did you have a meeting? And what was your decision in the meeting? So we want that kind of evidence so that we can say, go ahead to help you and you can get the money out of the bank. But not because we had it prior to Maria that we are now just going to disburse it. We want to ensure that the money goes into the right into something that is viable and something that can happen. And that is where we are with the cooperatives. We know that the cooperatives, it's a grassroots organization. It deals with grassroots organizations, which gives people the avenue to be self-sufficient. We do not want to dampen anybody's spirit. We want to lift themselves out of poverty, to own their own business, and create employment. And we still have that kind of focus for cooperatives. So it's in that light we want to do the right things before we just start dispersing funds and people take the money and do other things, and then you do not have job creation, and we'll be crying out for job creation. We have a few cooperatives, the home industry. I think they want to start back. Their place was destroyed. 12 employees lost their lives. Many farmers and chicken producers also suffer. And if these people are going back into chicken production, going back into farming, then we will be willing to help them people. But they have to bring in their plans, and we have to ensure that they will be going into that cooperative venture so that the money can be. So we may have to redirect funds to give it to those who are moving on. The Dominica Essential Oil and Spices, the society's loss was twofold. They lost their factory during Tropical Storm Erica. They still suffered loss from Maria, to include 5 local distilleries which were recently refurbished, and they have lost that. And 6 employees lost their jobs. So we have to look at them, sit with them, plan with them, and let's put the money there. The Believers Multipurpose, they just had a workshop with farming and so on. So we will help the cooperatives that are willing to move forward. We have this $1 million still there. Mr. Speaker, adult education. The ministry continues to develop national human resources through community non-formal education. We provide skills. We provide academic qualifications. We have even gone 24 inmates of the state prison participating in 2 courses this year, English A and Principles of Business at Caribbean Secondary Education Certificate level. These inmates are expected to write the exams in May, June of 2019, 24 of those inmates. And so there's hope for them. Literacy classes were conducted in the South, West, North, and Northeast, 41 learners. And the Caribbean Secondary Education Certificate has gained momentum over the years, and people are going back to school. I heard the member from Salisbury, Honorable Hector John, this morning, stating that the government planned to have 1 graduate in every household, and we are not looking at skills. Mr. Speaker, we didn't say that we wanted 1 academic graduate. We said 1 graduate. And graduate can be in skills, it can be in academia, it can be in anything. So regardless we say 1 graduate, we really still stick to the 1 graduate. We have people doing engineering, as Honorable Barron said this morning, some of the skills that we have. So what I got from the speaker is that, are you saying that because somebody is doing carpentry, joinery, and this type of jobs, they cannot get it at a level of tertiary level? Can they get a degree in those areas? So I think State College is the associate degree. Before, we used to have the City and Guilds. I think State College still speaks to that City and Guilds and provides skills in that area for people. So 1 graduate in a house doesn't mean 1 academic graduate. It speaks to all sectors, whether tertiary, whether practical, technical, or whatever. It speaks to anyone. Every zone provides service to a number of persons from diverse backgrounds. From farmers to employed persons, needing the requisite qualifications for entry into the public service, and everybody. We have the Portsmouth Learning Center, we have the Dominica State Prison, we have the Roseau Environs, Calibishi, La Plaine Kalinago territory. 85 participants, 35 males, 50 females, wrote exams in 2017, and the pass rate was high. Mr. Speaker, another thing under the ministry is the Juvenile Justice Reform Project, and this is a collaborative effort with the OECS Secretariat and USAID, which aims to strengthen existing juvenile justice systems of the 6 independent member states. It's a harmonized thing, and harmonization doesn't mean you have to be in the place. If the leader of the opposition was there, to be harmonized, you don't have to go to the place to be harmonized. You stay where you are and you can have that harmonization. It's just common ground for everybody. And we are working, the approach to the reform of the juvenile system is predicated on the pillars of the legal reform, and it has to do with capacity building in the administration of the system. We are looking at the modernization of the system and improving civil society and linkages in the delivery of children and youth services. The project is into its 3rd year, Mr. Speaker, and Dominica has so far benefited in various ways. The reform of family laws is regarded as being of great importance to Dominica, as certain family laws are outdated, and we are working on the family laws, and we are working in close collaboration with the Ministry of Justice. We have to work with them. They are the guiding ministry in that area. So we work with them, and very soon these laws will be implemented in Dominica. Mr. Speaker, going forward to 2019, there are critical areas that must be addressed. I mentioned them already. But I need to speak, before I really close, to my constituency. Mr. Speaker, you know, after Hurricane Maria is housing. My constituency so far has received $2.3 million in housing renovation. Mr. Speaker, one of our difficulties is capacity. We do not have, we have people, for example, in Coliho, there are 14 people, they have the money. We have provided them with the money. 14 people waiting for their houses, they're waiting on a contractor. I'm hoping that we will get the Cuban people in our area. In Dublin, we have 49 people waiting, they have the money already. We have touched over 165 households. And you know, we are moving forward. If you drive down to that area, though it was heavily impacted, there are very few tarpaulins. The tarpaulins that
you have 5 more minutes.
5 more minutes?
5 more.
Yes, 10 more.
Mr. Speaker, I beg that the Minister be given 10 more minutes to do a presentation.
Second, Mr. Speaker.
It has been moved and seconded that the Honorable Minister be given a further 10 minutes to complete her presentation. Those in favor? Aye. May continue.
Thank you. So for the housing thing, the people you will pass and you'll see the houses are not done yet are people who are out of state and they are not there, they have nobody to take control of their housing rebuilding efforts. So we are waiting on them. We are not saying that we will not help, but they have to be there for us to help. And I am happy in the budget. We see an amount of $547,000 being allocated for the health center in Collier. We had some issues. We started that in the last budget, but we had to collaborate with the church because we had to come under compromise with the church. And so instead of just having that amount for the designs, that amount will speak to the designs and the preliminary works for the construction of the health center, much needed health center in Coliho. Also on the books, we have $200,000 for the Coliho playing field. At the time when it will be done, we will do it, Mr. Speaker. I want to thank the Chinese government for the Coliho walkway from the school that they are going to help us in rebuilding and things so that the children can cross the school, cross the path instead of passing on the highway and crossing the river. I also want to say thank you to the Cubans for recovering the Corlejo Government School so that the children could be back at school in January. I want to also give the Dubla people the assurance that very soon their footpath will come, their bridge will be taken care of. So just bear a little patience with us. The Paradise Hill people of Biosh, one of the things they have been looking forward to having, and that's all they say they need. If they have that, they'll be okay. And Mr. Speaker, you know what it is, the water, and we are well on our way to getting that. So I just want to say thank you to the WASCO and thank for working on. And I just ask my people to be patient because Dominica, over 90% of Dominica was destroyed. We are not the only community. There are other communities, there are other people worse off than us. And let's just be patient and we will get through it together and your needs will be met. Mr. Speaker, I wish to place on record my appreciation for the commitment of the Permanent Secretary and all the staff of my ministry, their resilience, their hard work in meeting the objectives of the ministry. Mr. Speaker, I'm happy, exceedingly happy, to be part of an exceptional team and to wholeheartedly endorse the 2018-2019 national budget. We are a resilient team, and I am very optimistic that we will overcome all obstacles with God's guidance, and that we will move from survival to sustainability and success as we build a resilient Dominica by God's grace. I wish to profoundly thank the Honorable Prime Minister and Minister for Finance for his laudable efforts in engineering the team in these challenging times and for his investment in families. As I close, I ask for the outpouring of the Holy Spirit upon our land, upon our people, for a renewal of spirit, for a new anointing as we journey on the road to recovery. An anointing which will engender love, peace, unity, and patriotism. May God bless Dominica. May God bless the people of Dominica. I thank you.
Yeah. Mr. Speaker, I am honored to be able to join my colleagues on this side of the House to give my support to the national budget for the fiscal year 2018-2019. Mr. Speaker, I say honored because as a Dominican, one cannot but feel a sense of pride after having heard the masterful delivery of the Honorable Prime Minister. His budget presentation came, Mr. Speaker, like a shower of rain in a desert land, or a bowl of soup to a hungry man. And unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, the honorable member for Roseau North is not here this afternoon, but I'm sure he would be able to associate with this analogy. In fact, Mr. Speaker, the only comparison that I could make was like that of Moses, the exodus of the children of Israel, when Moses led the children of Israel from bondage out of Egypt. Mr. Speaker, PM Skerrit was like Moses. And when he grew tired and his hands could not remain upright, he had a slate of ministers he had, like the children of Israel, a bunch of supporters and well-wishers who would support him, so that, like Moses, Prime Minister Skerrit has taken this country from what I consider as despair, despondency, death, and devastation to the realization of faith, fortitude, that we are able to override the obstacles which stand in our way. Of course, with the guidance of the omnipresent God, and take us to a place or to the pinnacle of prosperity in this country. Mr. Speaker, I think it is all too easy for mega disasters to be forgotten. But for those dealing with the loss of a loved one, or the complete destruction of a dwelling home, it is not that easy to recover. Yet today, Mr. Speaker, 10 months after the most catastrophic disaster in our recent history, visitors to Dominica are wondering, is this really the island that was reduced to wasteland comparable to Hiroshima after the devastation caused by atomic bombs, or Indonesia following the tsunamis of 2004? This, Mr. Speaker, was achieved only because of the astute leadership of Prime Minister Skerrit and a supportive slate of ministers who, as I said, like Moses, when his hands were tired, the population who understands the need to support leadership stood with him. And so, yes, we can say we have made it. Mr. Speaker, I wish at this point, though, to express profound gratitude to the countless faithful prayer warriors, the hundreds of committed public servants, business persons, and regional and international partners who have assisted us in riding the tide which has made us a much better and stronger people. Mr. Speaker, I wish to give high praise, though, to the Honorable Minister for Health for the good work he is doing within the Ministry of Health. Because, Mr. Speaker, while all of this was going on, I think he has done an exceptional job in the delivery of health services. And I say this because the Minister for Health and Pal Rep for the Petit Savan constituency, maybe unknowing to him, has ensured that the member for the Roseau South constituency is lucid enough to attend Parliament.
Come on,
Mr. Speaker.
Minister, be careful, okay?
Mr. Speaker, you hear the opposition led by Senator Monel Williams John Baptist decry the NEP, denigrate the young people and women of Dominica, herself being a woman, because they are part of the National Employment Program, the NEP. But, Mr. Speaker, it demonstrates clearly her inability to understand current events, her inability to comprehend what is happening within and around her own community. Honorable member for the St. Joseph constituency. I just want to educate the opposition and to advise that the National Employment Program is not limited and restricted only to beautification within the communities. In fact, Mr. Speaker, we have individuals who are engaged under the National Employment Program who we must admit are much more academically sound than a number of individuals who sit within the four walls of this parliament. Yet they seem to reduce it just to clean up and beautification. And you heard the senator on radio and in parliament deriding the people of Dominica. But, Mr. Speaker, the National Employment Program engages more than 2,000 people. 327 of those individuals are engaged within the public sector. Another 381 are engaged within the private sector. And we have 75 within the private sector working on the 50-50 program, where the proprietor pays half of their salaries and the state, the government, the Labour Party administration pays the other half. And under the Community Employment Initiative, we have 1,876, Mr. Speaker. And as education mentors, yes, education mentors. The honorable member for Salisbury is not here, but he needs to hear that. Education mentors, 142 individuals. So we must impress on the minds of the Dominican public that the NEP is not limited, restricted, and confined solely to beautification. In fact, I have a young lady from my constituency, studied in Cuba, Kitwani Morgan. She worked with Dr. Ricketts, Honorable Minister for Health, and today she is gainfully employed at the PMH, taking care of the eyes of Dominicans. Are you telling me this is about beautification? Mr. Speaker, when you hear the opposition chorusing that the economy is doing badly and Dominica is among the worst economic performers in the region, Mr. Speaker, the statistics show a completely opposite picture. And Mr. Speaker, I just want to give us some information here because, Mr. Speaker, facts are very stubborn things. And facts hold consistently true, Mr. Speaker. I say this to say that if we go back to the period 1995 to 2017, Mr. Speaker, if you look at contributions to the Dominica Social Security, Mr. Speaker, one will realize that under the United Workers' Party, from 1995 up until January 2000, when you compare the contributions made then to the contribution made from 2001 to 2017, there has been a significant increase in contribution made from 2001 to 2017. Yet you hear them saying the economy is doing badly. For example, Mr. Speaker, in 1995, the contribution made by Dominicans to the Social Security was $21.2 million. And in 1996, $22.3 million. slight increase. In 97, 23.1. And in 98, 23.6. And in 1999, the cutoff period, 25.6. Now the Labour Party administration took over in 2000, January of 2000, and the contribution made was $26.6 million. Mr. Speaker, in 2002, it jumped to 27.8. In 2004, 25.6. In 2007, Mr. Speaker, $34.2 million. And 2008, 37.5. 2009, 39.9 million EC dollars. In 2010, 42.6 million EC dollars. In 2011, 43.7. In 2012, $44.9 million. Steady increase, Mr. Speaker. In 2014, 47.5 million EC dollars. In 2015, 51.7 million EC dollars, Mr. Speaker. And in 2016, following the devastation caused by Erica, in 2016, 53.4 million EC dollars. And Mr. Speaker, in 2017, 56.9 million EC dollars, Mr. Speaker. Now, Mr. Speaker, one must ask the question, this increase in contributions, Mr. Speaker, is from 25.6 million in 1995 to 56.9 million in 2017. It is conclusive evidence, Mr. Speaker, that under the Labour Party administration, people are earning more. There are more people employed, contrary to what the United Workers' Party says. The economy is not collapsing. Neither is the economy in a bad state as they want us to believe. Because even with an increase in the workforce, government continues to pay its contributions to the Social Security, unlike under the United Workers' Party, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the United Workers' Party was conceived in lies, they were born in hypocrisy, and they will die in debauchery. Mr. Speaker.
I'm going to have you take that back, please. Please take it back.
Mr. Speaker,
You're
I
imputing
withdraw.
improper motives. Thank you.
But it is true, Mr. Speaker, that I was a banana farmer. Back in the 80s, I grew bananas from 1980 to 2001. I was promised $2 a pound of banana. And to date, the United Workers' Party has not delivered on that promise. So they lied to the farmers of Dominica to earn their way into office. No wonder. We know, we all understand and know that the United Workers' Party shall never taste of power in the Commonwealth of Dominica. Never again. Mr. Speaker, I will come back to the United Workers' Party and the lies that they propagate to the Dominican people, because I believe that it is about time. And you heard the member for Rosa South this morning saying, well, maybe the church that the Prime Minister has been talking about forming, he now has evangelists, political evangelists. Well, I'm happy that he has political evangelists, Mr. Speaker. But I wonder what sort of evangelists that they have reject a man in Maho, and a few months later, he's the best thing that happened after the creation of Adam and Eve. Recycled a man that was corrupt and no good and made him the best thing after their leader, Mr. Speaker. Well, thank God we have political evangelists. And we are here to evangelize the people of Dominica and say to Dominica, enough is enough. The United Workers' Party has ripped Dominica, has cleared Dominica, and they shall no longer see the doors or the corridors of power.
Minister, be
Yes.
careful.
Yes.
Be careful with some of the things that you say, Minister.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. I note the concern. Mr. Speaker, let me turn my attention to the Ministry of Education. Mr. Speaker, undoubtedly, an educated workforce is central to building a resilient economy and/or a resilient society. And indeed, it could be said that building a resilient society which is sustainable is not without, or it cannot be done without having the requisite skill sets within the populace. This is because the process of transitioning the country onto a climate resilient pathway must ultimately be reflected in the behavior of people. That is, people acting in their own best interest. And in this regard, the overall education system on the island, to include teachers, students, physical facilities, school facilities, and the school curricula must be examined in order to determine its state of readiness to contribute meaningfully to the whole objective of making Dominica the first climate resilient country in the world. And Mr. Speaker, it is by no accident that following the passage of Maria, our Prime Minister declared to the world that it is our intention that Dominica shall be the first climate resilient country. Because back in 2000, the Labour Party government had actually put in motion the mechanism that got us to where we are today. Were it not for the vision, the wisdom of the Labour Party administration led by Roosevelt Skerrit, today Dominica would have been 70 times worse off than we are. In fact, Mr. Speaker, just think of Dominica in the hands of a United Party administration the day after Maria. I guarantee you the leadership would have disappeared into thin air and found themselves somewhere, maybe in Las Vegas. But Mr. Speaker, we need climate resilience for our education system. Within the education sector, climate resilience is reflected in a number of areas. Mr. Speaker, the ability of the system to cope, adapt, or bounce back after a disaster or a stressful life event. The ability of our children to use learned positive behaviors in emergency and disaster situations for all children and our youth. The right to quality and inclusive education, Mr. Speaker, in emergencies, safe site selection, design, construction, and maintenance, Mr. Speaker, of existing educational infrastructure and new school buildings. And, Mr. Speaker, importantly, these must be in accordance to disaster risk management guidelines, standards, and codes as deemed appropriate. Mr. Speaker, we are seeking to make our schools fully accessible to all, including vulnerable groups like persons with disabilities, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I could run with a litany this afternoon, but I shall seek to be brief. But Mr. Speaker, in September of 2017, the new academic year commenced with a bang on September 4th. but the education system was brought to a complete halt on September 18th by Hurricane Maria. All of our school buildings and their contents were severely affected. In fact, the preliminary assessment revealed the following, Mr. Speaker. 22 primary schools had major damage, that is, complete collapse, structural damage, collapse or partial collapse of roof, loss of windows, doors, materials, and equipment damage. 27 schools had some damage and would require rehabilitation. 9 primary schools needed major repairs and clearing of debris. All of our secondary schools needed rehabilitation, and at least one would have to be completely rebuilt. Mr. Speaker, the Dominica State College suffered tremendously. 10 of the 20 structures of the 21 buildings suffered major damage, including loss of the entire roof. And 33 schools had to be used as shelters. That is 45% of all our schools. So, Mr. Speaker, all of our schools was affected in one way, shape, form, or the other. As a result of the passage of Hurricane Maria, we saw a significant impact on student population. In fact, Mr. Speaker, before Hurricane Maria, at the early childhood level, we had a total roll of 1,321. That dropped by 4.3% to 1,255. At the primary level, we had 7,068 children enrolled before Maria, dropped by 528, a percentage drop of 7.4. And at the secondary level, we had a percentage drop of 13.6%, from 5,472 to 4,632. Overall, early childhood, primary and secondary, we had a 10.9%, almost 11% drop in student enrollment. But of course, that is natural following a major disaster. In fact, what in the Dominican context, we would consider a mega disaster. But while we were battered and bruised, Mr. Speaker, we were not daunted. And the only reason being, we saw leadership standing firm. And so the people of Dominica were able to take heart. Mr. Speaker, as always is the case, all of our capital works had to be put on hold because in the last budget cycle, we proposed that we would do a new classroom block at the Dominica Grammar School, classroom block at the Sineku Primary, the construction of a new school for Tibo, Calibishi, Goodwill Secondary, but these had to be put on hold. Mr. Speaker, this afternoon I'm pleased to announce to this honorable House and the people of Dominica that once again, true friends are friends in good times and in bad times. They are your friends in the night and your friends in the daytime. I say this because the People's Republic of China has once again demonstrated in a very, very positive way that they are a true friend and partner of the government and people of Dominica. So when we thought it was not possible, thankfully, they are coming forward to ensure that we can construct a completely new structure for the students of the Goodwill Secondary School. Mr. Speaker, like the Newton Primary School, this will be a state-of-the-art facility. Further, Mr. Speaker, it must be noted that since Dominica moved towards the PRC and broke away from Taiwan, over 97% of the civilized world is part of this movement, Mr. Speaker. China has been a partner, a friend, and in fact, Mr. Speaker, I would venture to say, a big brother in development to Dominica. Mr. Speaker, strange that it was only after, and we moved back in 2004. But Mr. Speaker, it was only after a group of guys got a trip to go on a duvet and take photos on the Great Wall of China that suddenly they came back and they recognized the one China policy. But Mr. Speaker, we have the confidence that not just the Goodwill Secondary School, but I will speak to other schools later, that our friend and partner, the People's Republic of China, shall deliver on the promise. Mr. Speaker, despite the fact that Maria had set us back more than 50 years, the Ministry of Education was able to carry out maintenance and repair works on a number of our school plants, from Isaiah Thomas Secondary, Portsmouth Secondary, Mount Prosper Primary, Jordan. We did works on 18 of our schools, expending a total of $1,999,000 to ensure that we could get our students back at school. Mr. Speaker, the new academic year began officially on the 4th, but we were set back, and so just about 1 month later, Mr. Speaker, we opened the doors of our first school 1 month later. And Mr. Speaker, we saw progressively, week after week, schools were reopening their doors. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the number of regional and international institutions and donor agencies, the committed teachers and staff within the Ministry of Education, officers within the Ministry of Education, locals and foreigners alike, our friends in the diaspora who assisted us in ensuring that our children could be back at school. Prior to the hurricane, Mr. Speaker, we spent $178,480 procuring furniture for teachers, students, valued at some, in addition to $541,369.49 that was expended by UNICEF. Mr. Speaker, most of the furniture that was procured pre-Maria was destroyed. But, Mr. Speaker, it is important that when calamity strikes, that leadership maintains a sense of direction. And so we saw and registered the continuation of minor works being done to our school. And Mr. Speaker, I'm happy to report that at today's date, at the end of the school year, all but two of our schools are back and fully operational. Mr. Speaker, it is important to note that we could not have done it alone. And praise cannot be too much for the organizations both here and abroad who assisted in ensuring that our children were not disadvantaged for too long. And as I say this, Mr. Speaker, of course I will get to that segment, but I need to inform the House that despite the late commencement of the school year and the loss of engaged time, we did not see any negative impact on the performance of our students. In fact, Mr. Speaker, at the national exams, we saw our students continuing to demonstrate their ability to do well. And so we were able, as government, to issue 91 scholarships and 99 bursaries at the grade 6 assessment. We had top performers, and importantly, coming from across the island, Honorable Minister for Ecclesiastical Affairs, the Convent Prep, Dublin Primary, Grand Bay, St. Martin. Mr. Speaker, we see communities like Lighthouse or the Kalinago Territory and Atkinson, Savonpai, that were seriously impacted by the hurricane, yet the students were able to do well. And I think commendation is in order for these students, their parents, and of course, the teachers who worked with them. And indeed, some of the PAL reps, Mr. Speaker, because, and I think we need to underscore that, because some of these PAL reps and ministers went out of the way. I mean, Herculean effort, some of us demonstrated to ensure that our schools were back in order, that roads were in order, and that students could be back at these facilities. As I say this, Mr. Speaker, let me say to the Dominican public, and let me say to the parents out here, that your government understands the challenges with which you are faced. And so, the Prime Minister and Minister of Finance has given the firm commitment that our social programs shall not be in any way affected as a result of the passage of Maria. So I give the Dominican public the assurance that the government of Dominica, the Labour Party administration, we shall continue to address the needs of the less fortunate children of Dominica. Through the Education Trust Fund, Mr. Speaker, we will ensure that we provide for these students. Mr. Speaker, in the last financial year, 2,757 students were transported at a cost of $2.6 million. $2.6 million that the parents in Dublin, Boetica, and Penville in Scots Head would have had to pay to transport the students to school. The government of Dominica, your Labour Party administration, expended $2.6 million transporting a total of 2,757 students, despite the fact that Dominica had lost 226% of its GDP. Mr. Speaker, this is exceptional in every respect, because the most logical thing that any government should have done was to say, we are not able to continue it. In fact, Mr. Speaker, you have heard time and time again that Honorable Lennox Linton, the member for the Marigot constituency, and the leader of the opposition, and the parliamentarians that he has with him on his team, the united team. Mr. Speaker, they have said over and over that should they come in office, all social programs shall be terminated. But Mr. Speaker, despite the fact that we had to depend on people from outside, the Honorable Prime Minister made a solemn promise and kept to it that we would not touch our social programs. Mr. Speaker, through the Education Trust Fund, we were able to make monthly payments to 94 private bus drivers contracted to transport secondary school students and 9 attendants and drivers. These are the people who drive the GA buses. 67 students from communities where transportation is not readily available received transportation allowance from the Education Trust Fund amounting to $34,700. Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, this is a feat that no other administration has ever achieved. In addition to this, Madam Speaker, in the fiscal year 2017-2018, through the Education Trust Fund, we paid 810 students around Dominica a total of $405,000, representing transfer grant for the first-time students leaving primary and entering secondary school. For CSEC examination fees, 210 students, we expended a total of $80,833.90. And transportation allowance, that is aside of the contracted bus drivers, aside of the government buses, we expended $34,700 for 67 students around Dominica. And Madam Speaker, the uniform allowance, we expended $577,321.83, Honorable Member for the Petit Savane constituency, addressing the needs of children around Dominica, ensuring that they have shoes and uniforms, bags and books to get to school. And for school registration, because, Madam Speaker, you need to be aware of this, that while some parents walk around with 2 cell phones, there are times when their children cannot pay the registration fee. And I think we need to call on Dominicans to exercise prudence and good judgment as to how they spend their hard-earned monies. And very often, PAL reps are bombarded at the Ministry of Education, or they go to the PM's office. And so for school registration, students who are entering school or at school and they cannot pay, and mind you, Madam Speaker, some of these schools, and we need to send a clear message, and as Minister, I need to send a clear message to some of these schools, because I believe that the registration fee is prohibitive. While we speak of creating access to secondary education, some schools make access to secondary education prohibitive by charging exceptionally high fees, sometimes as much as $1,000 and above. Yeah. Madam Speaker, when a parent registers a child because she believes this school is prestigious and a child needs to go there, and she can't pay the fee, when that parent goes to a PAL rep or the minister, we, because of a heart of love, we assist these people. We find ways and means to assist these people. While there are some, Madam Speaker, who enjoy $2,000 every month for the payment of rent and the payment of a secretary and admin secretary in their offices, they use it for private, personal use. And they do not help one constituent. Madam Speaker, school registration, 110 students, we expended $37,641. Of course, Madam Speaker, we're well aware that on the Labour Party side of this House, ministers and PAL reps, because of their love for the people of Dominica and the manner in which we assist people, sometimes they classify us using all derogatory names. But, Madam Speaker, I want to call on the opposition to behave like parliamentary representatives and do the honorable thing and assist the people who voted you in office because they had confidence in your ability to do and work for them. And the school feeding program, Madam Speaker, I must say that we had a total of 40 schools operating the feeding program before Erica. But as a result of damage to kitchens and equipment caused by the hurricane, to date, we are operating the feeding program at 12 schools, taking care of 737 students. And I really want to thank our partners in the school feeding program, the Swiss agency, who for a very long time have been assisting us in ensuring that our children can receive a hot meal. Madam Speaker, it is important to note that in the last, that is to cater for children with special needs. While we had to tone down what we did, it must be noted that we did not completely abandon our mission. In fact, we were able to expend some $50,000 to ensure that children with special needs, children with disabilities, were able to access the facilities post-Maria. Because there are some parents who were not able to provide adequately for these children. And as far as access to early childhood ECD is concerned, we have been on an upward move as far as increasing access is concerned. The thrust to increase access at the early childhood level, Madam Speaker, particularly within the primary school, where we have space, it was hampered by the hurricane. However, works continued on seeking to assist these schools. And Madam Speaker, I want at this moment to express profound gratitude to the Maria Holder Trust, who have worked with us to increase access to early childhood education in at least 6 of our primary schools. We have received confirmation of approval, and the Maria Holder Memorial Trust has approved building extensions to the primary school for early childhood development at Watton-Waven, Trafalgar, so Dr. McIntyre, Watton-Waven, Trafalgar, Roseau Primary, Warner, Honorable Member for St. Joe, the Bells, and Concord Primary Schools. In fact, Madam Speaker, once the architectural drawings have been completed and approved, we will begin to see works on ground at these 6 schools. And the Maria Holder Memorial Trust has actually approved the sum of $1.8 million equivalent to 4.8 million EC dollars towards this rehabilitation effort. And of course, we register our profound gratitude. I also want, Madam Speaker, to mention that capacity building, specifically with the roving caregivers who provide needed support for children between 0 and 3, and creating friendly spaces and psychosocial support, have been forthcoming, organized and by Israel and UNICEF immediately after and continuing thereon, immediately after Maria and continuing thereon. Madam Speaker, a minute ago I alluded to the performance of our students despite the challenges that confronted them post-Maria. In the last year, the Caribbean Examinations Council was very concerned that the islands that were impacted by Irma and Maria, that they may or might have experienced a significant drop in the performance of those students from the various islands, including Dominica. But, Madam Speaker, I'm pleased to inform that despite our challenges, Dominica was able to perform above the regional average. In fact, Madam Speaker, the regional average at the CXC examinations was 66.88, while Dominica registered an overall average of 78.4. And Madam Speaker, in a number of subject areas, we were well above the regional average. For example, English A, regional average 67, Dominica's average 79.4. Mathematics, an area of concern internationally and regionally, regional average 44.6, Dominica's average 48.9. And in some areas, economics, regional average 80, Dominica 100. Geography, regional 64, Dominica 82.6. Building tech 81 and Dominica 91.5. So in a number of areas, our students, despite the challenges that that confronted them, they were able to do exceptionally well. Madam Speaker, the Caribbean Examination Council, CXC, will soon be introducing exams on demand in each territory, and we will see that by the year 2020, meaning that candidates will no longer be restricted to only 2 exam sessions per year. Of course, we know that it's, Honorable Minister, either June, May, June, or January. So CXC is now ensuring that candidates can now do their exams on demand. Candidates will also be able to bring their own devices to the examination room and sit exams using Safe Exam or the Safe Exam browser. Now, critical interventions such as procurement of electronic devices, tools, and equipment must be put in place. And within the Ministry of Education, and you will recall in last year's budget that we actually appropriated $1 million for this specific purpose. Madam Speaker, I'm pleased to announce that we continue in this trend, in this thrust, and in fact, we have already contacted firms for the procurement of those devices. Madam Speaker, education is dynamic, and I believe that we here in Dominica need to recognize the need for us to continuously upgrade and update our education system. Madam Speaker, this year, learners were introduced to the Flow Study app and reintroduced to the Notes Master app, both online tools to support CSEC and CAPE examinations. And I want to encourage our teachers to maximize on the use of ICT in the classroom and to take full advantage of the tools that will enhance the teaching and learning environment and experience of our students. And of course, I know the Honorable Minister for ICT is well up to speed in that respect. Madam Speaker, this morning, you heard the Honorable, this afternoon, Minister for Foreign Affairs in a very efficient manner put to death the propaganda of the United Workers' Party. I do not want to repeat what was said earlier today, and Minister, thanks much for dealing them the death blow that caused the entire slate of opposition to be out of this room. And of course, we don't expect them on Monday because it's not a demonstration where we are collecting bags of stones and all sorts of missiles. So we don't expect them on Monday. But Madam Speaker, as it relates to human resource development, in 2017-2018, the Ministry of Education and Human Resource Development, the government of Dominica, continued to receive scholarships annually from the governments of the People's Republic of China, Morocco, Serbia, the Republic of Cuba, and Madam Speaker, you just named them. And so, in the interest of time, I won't go into all of the countries. Madam Speaker, scholarships were also awarded to the top performers in each faculty at the Dominica State College. The government of Dominica also awards medical scholarships to the citizens of Dominica to pursue degrees in medicine, both at Ross and All Saints University. And importantly, Madam Speaker, because sometimes many people believe that culture is not important, Minister for Culture. But every year, over several years, and that continues, we award a scholarship.
You have 5 minutes
to
left.
the National Carnival Queen. 10 minutes.
Madam Speaker, I move that the Minister of Education be given additional 50 minutes to complete his presentation.
Second, Madam Speaker.
It has been moved and seconded that the minister be given a further 15 minutes to complete his contribution. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. You have 15 minutes on your remaining time.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you to my colleagues. Madam Speaker, on the issue of human resource, the Labour Party administration has distinguished itself, more so on the Prime Minister Roosevelt's carrot, as the education party of the Commonwealth of Dominica. This is, I mean, it cannot be disputed. Never in the history of Dominica, and you heard it this morning, or this afternoon, earlier today, has any government taken such interest, has any prime minister taken such interest in the development of the young people, the citizens of a country. And Madam Speaker, since Maria, government has made significant investments in the future of the young people of Dominica. I was flabbergasted, Madam Speaker, went on a visit with the Honorable Prime Minister to the UWI campus in Trinidad and Barbados. Immediately following the hurricane, it was about 1 month after the hurricane. I mean, I expected the Prime Minister to dialogue with the students and seek to encourage them. And then I was blown to bits when I heard the Prime Minister announce, one thing I want you to focus on is your work. Do not give yourself worries about payment of fees. I give you the firm commitment, in his usual style. I give you the firm commitment that we shall take care of the fees of all students. Now, The opposition has the audacity, Madam Speaker, to go around the country saying that the government, the Labour Party, is not interested in the young people of Dominica. Madam Speaker, after a hurricane had brought us to our knees, in fact, I think we were much lower than our knees. We were actually buried in our graves. Dominica was buried, and there was no way of escape. Madam Speaker, the government of Dominica, led by Roosevelt Skerrit, in November of 2017, made payments to ensure that our students at universities overseas would remain to continue their studies so that they can return to Dominica and assist in the development process of this country. In November of 2017, November, 2 months after the hurricane, $336,132.16. And as if that was not enough, in December, when we were making all sorts of concessions and payments to individuals around the island, $246,099.12. And in January of 2018, $970,002.18. This is payments for students out of state. And in February of 2018, $2 million. You heard me right. Isn't that an investment in our young people? Where is the leader of the opposition? Where is Pax John et al.? $2,269,265.
The member
I take that back, Madam Speaker.
No, I'm not asking you to take back anything. I am just asking you to remember it's the member for Salisbury.
Oh, and company.
Yes.
Madam Speaker, and there's some of them on Facebook.
Et al. Is understood. Is the member for Salisbury. That's the one you missed. That's right.
And company. $2,269,265.87. And as if that was not enough, Madam Speaker, listen to this. In March, $1,196,542.21. And in April, $646,068.40. And then, in April, the Prime Minister announced that the government of Dominica, we shall pay all outstanding fees for every student at the Dominica State College, whether he's red, yellow, black, or white. All the Prime Minister requested was the amount, and that was transmitted to him through the Ministry of Education. And we made a check available of $1,050.29 to provide for Dick, Tom, Harry, Jasmine, and Michael from Salisbury, from La Plaine, from Portsmouth, from Roseau South, who was at the State College and was not able to pay the fees, Madam Speaker. If that is not investment in the young people, then I want the leader of the opposition. I challenge the United Workers' Party to tell us what is investment. Could it be sitting on a wall on a roadside and drinking a kubuli, Madam Speaker? That is investment in our young people. Madam Speaker, let me go quickly because I know I don't have much time. We have committed that the State College shall return to 100% functionality. And we thank the Cuban Brigade that is here assisting us to re-roof the State College. True friends and partners, Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker, in addition to that, let me say quickly, I want to just commend the President and his staff up at the State College and the Board of Directors, the Board of Governors for working with us. But Madam Speaker, I believe that we have demonstrated in no uncertain terms that we have what it takes to take Dominica forward into the next century, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, one of the areas that very often that is overlooked within my ministry, the Ministry of Education, is the Library and Archives and Documentation Center. But Madam Speaker, I really want to commend the Chief Librarian and her staff at the Documentation Center and the Library for the kind of work they were able to do following the passage of Maria. I mean, they turned out there and really got the job done. And today, all of our out-district libraries are functioning. The library in Roseau is functional. Of course, we are cramped in a little room, but the good news is that the Cabinet of the Commonwealth of Dominica has taken a decision to rent a space in the center of Roseau on Independence Street. And by the end of next month, the public library shall have adequate space to continue catering to the needs of Dominicans. But importantly, Madam Speaker, we are looking forward to the construction of a new facility that will cause Dominicans to have an appetite to use the library. Madam Speaker, very quickly, I want to run to the La Plaine constituency. And as I turn my attention to the La Plaine constituency, I wish firstly to thank all of my constituents for their incessant prayers. For had it not been for the prayer of the faithful, we would have been lost. Their words of encouragement and their moral support. And as was the case, Madam Speaker, of all eastern communities, Boetica, Delis, and La Plaine were battered, beaten, bruised. Madam Speaker, I was tempted to use patois. Demoralisé, Madam Speaker. We were demoralized. Decimated, Madam Speaker. Agriculture, the mainstay of our local economy, Madam Speaker, was reduced to zero. And the housing stock was totally obliterated, Madam Speaker. In fact, one of the surveys revealed that of the 402 homes in La Plaine, only 25 with galvanized roofs had any semblance of a roof. That was the picture in the La Plaine constituency and, of course, Grand Fond, Montjean, Rivière-Syrique. 10 months after Maria, Madam Speaker, as parliamentary representative, while it is true that there is much more to be done within those villages, I must report that the villages have been transformed from what looked like a refugee camp to thriving communities again. Madam Speaker, when you went to Boetica, Montjean, Delis, it looked like a refugee camp that some giant monster had just destroyed everything. Today, farmers are harvesting and selling. Madam Speaker, agriculture is on the rise again, Honorable Austri. Farmers have been given assistance. In fact, Madam Speaker, we gave 85 Toloma farmers a total each of $2,611.84 to ensure that they were able to rise again. Madam Speaker, farmers now have a sense of hope again. We are now feeding our families and we are ensuring food security in the southeast of the island. In education, Madam Speaker, we see the reconstruction of the Jones Bopier School and the Daly School, primary school. We have re-roofed the Jones Bopier Primary School, contracted Vama Trinidadian Company, and Madam Speaker, the Daly's Primary, like Tetmon and Grand Bay and Calabashi, is done for major works thanks to the government of the PRC and the government of Canada, Madam Speaker. We have continued provision of assistance to our students, bus transport. In fact, Madam Speaker, this year I feel that really I'm one of the proudest parliamentarians in Dominica. That as Minister of Education, I have the distinct honor, first time in history, because I always felt second class because Dr. Daru kept doing it and doing it over and over again. Honorable Justina Charles and Kelva Daru and my good friend Jono sending scores of students to study overseas. Madam Speaker, this year I have one student from La Plaine going to Cuba, 2 students going to Midwestern State, and 3 students going to Grambling. A total of 6 students Well, I know I've not surpassed the honorable member for Petit Savant, but at least I'm inching closer to him.
Your time is up.
Yes, Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker, of course, you are well aware. I need 5 more minutes, please.
Madam Speaker, I wish that the honorable member be given 5 more minutes to complete his presentation.
Or further.
A further 5 minutes.
Good. It has been moved and seconded that the minister be given a further 5 minutes to complete his contribution. Mind you, I was busy checking something, so already 2 minutes have gone of it. So effectively, he has 3 more minutes. Okay? Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. 3 minutes and 2 on your good mercies.
No, the 3
Madam
were
Speaker,
at my good mercy.
The road network that has been my constant pain. We see the completion of the Taberry Bailey Bridge. Thank God, Madam Speaker, part of my worries are over when it rains. Thanks to the Labour Party administration, we promised and we delivered. The White River Bailey Bridge is complete. Madam Speaker, the Bwetika Bailey was reinforced to the tune of 90,000. In fact, I believe we have the safest Bailey Bridge on island at Bwetika. We see the continuation of the Fresh Island Training Center Road in La Plaine, a $600,000 project. Madam Speaker, started before the hurricane, but we had to put it on hold. The Bois-Diab, Rosalie Point Millat Road, Madam Speaker, although progress is not at the speed, Honorable Minister McIntyre, that we would desire in the Southeast, but thankfully we are seeing a glimmer of light at the end of the tunnel. 2 sections on that road have been sealed, and I'm hoping within quick time that the contractor will deliver the other portions. But of course, there is need for us to address the sections that are not addressed under the B envelope. And the minister just gave the assurance, my dear constituents, that that will be addressed. Madam Speaker, we see the completion, finally the completion of the interventions between Bwetika and Delis that will cause post-Erica. At Wavin Gowash, we still have some work to do, but that will be done. And the good news for the people of Bwetika is that BNTF, and you heard it from the minister, BNTF has signed a contract of $1.3 million for the upgrade of the Bwetika water system. And the people of La Plaine, our water problems are almost over, especially those of us who live way up. Another contract of $1.4 million for the upgrade of the La Plaine water project has been signed by Offshore Marine. And in the area of health, Madam Speaker, the Ministry of Health and Power have been seeking to give us a smart health center at La Plaine. It is the first in a slate of smart health centers that are to be developed. Some $1.8 million is being expended. And Minister for National Security have been advised that a contract should be awarded soon for the rehabilitation of the Delis police station.
And that's your last sentence.
And Madam Speaker, having said that, I want to say that importantly for me is the issue of housing. 146
I can't allow it,
have been re-roofed, Madam Speaker. 16 new houses built, 66 apartments to be built in La Plaine and Delis. And of course, 180 individuals have received materials. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker, I move that this House stand adjourned until 3 p.m. I think it's
Monday. The date?
Monday, 3 p.m. on Monday, the 30th of July. 3 p.m.
Yes. Any seconders? Okay. It has been moved and seconded that this honorable House, I see some persons walking in, so I'll wait for them to take their seat. just in time to be too late. I shall start again. It has been moved and seconded that this Honorable House stands adjourned until 3 p.m. Monday, 30th of July. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. This Honorable House stands adjourned until Monday, 30th of July at 3 p.m.